Welcome back to the KDPG Sunday edition. I'm John Delano. This morning we're talking about the state of LGBTQ rights in America. Before we get back to our discussion, Thursday night featured a town hall of presidential candidates focused on LGBTQ issues. The event was hosted by CNN and the Human Rights Campaign, and it brought some tough questions for the Democratic candidates. Ki Young La reports.
Mayor Pete Buttigieg.
The first presidential candidate to identify publicly as gay before a historic LGBTQ town hall was paused by protesters highlighting transgender members of their community who have been murdered.
I do want to acknowledge what these demonstrators were speaking about, which is the epidemic of violence against black trans women in this country right now. And I believe, or would like to believe, that everybody here is committed to ending that epidemic, and that does include lifting up its visibility and speaking to it.
Unscripted moments forcing candidate response.
Black trans women are being killed in this country, and CNN, you have erased black trans women for the last time. Let me tell you something. Black trans women are dying. Our lives matter.
She grabbed the mic to stand up for herself and other trans women of color and trans men of color that she talked about as well. That's what democracy looks like in America.
Make sure that we create safe communities in which they can exist.
Stop killing us. How do we get those men to stop killing trans women of color? We are hunted.
I know.
Systematically
I know.
hunted. How do we do that?
There needs to be a safe place for the members of our transgender community to go when they have been exposed to that kind of harm, and we know there's not always a safe place.
Kamala Harris highlighted how, as a prosecutor, she fought and helped eliminate an anti-gay law. And Joe Biden pledged gay rights would impact international relations in his administration.
So a country like Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia, same thing. By the way, they have very little social redeeming value. No, I've been blunt about it. I've been very, very blunt about it. Very blunt about it. I know they are supposed they're ally and all the rest. I'm not saying, look, there's certain things that we cannot tolerate.
Cory Booker equated gay rights with all civil rights.
We are not free when we swear an oath, all of us swear an oath it will be a nation of liberty and justice for all. Those are aspirational words right now until every LGBTQ American has equal rights, and I will get the Equality Act passed and into law in our country.
A night of serious issues, but not without some levity.
And a supporter approaches you and says, Senator, I'm old-fashioned, and my faith teaches me that marriage is between one man and one woman. What is your response?
Well, I'm going to assume it's a guy who said that. And I'm going to say, then just marry one woman. I'm cool with that. Assuming you can find one.
There's very little daylight between these candidates when it comes to issues affecting the LGBTQ community, like passing the Equality Act, banning gay conversion therapy, expanding HIV care. This evening, a testament to the growing power of the LGBTQ vote in the 2020 election. Kyung La, CNN, Los Angeles.
We are joined again by Gary Van Horn, president of the Delta Foundation of Pittsburgh, Megan Stanley, executive director of the Pittsburgh Commission on Human Relations, and Jerry Micco, senior assistant managing editor for the Post-Gazette. I was interrupting you, Jerry, as we went to the break, so go right ahead.
Well, I wanted to, I guess we'll go back to the segment we just saw. Gary, I don't know if you watched it last night. I know I didn't, but I'd read about it this morning and saw this clip. How do you feel when politics gets involved in this, and of course it's going to be involved in it, the election turnout in 2020 could be where LGBTQ community comes together, do you think, and votes? I mean, they don't vote in block, but they're going to come out and vote. Do you think in bigger numbers than ever?
I think you have a more engaged LGBTQ community ever than in politics. I think over the last 3 years, under President Trump, you've seen a dial back of years of progress. I mean, even under previous administrations that weren't necessarily 100% in support of us. Obviously, Obama did light years ahead, moved us light years ahead. But I think you've seen the dial turn back under this administration, and I think people aren't happy about it, and they're going to get up and vote.
I wanted to ask Megan a question too. Cory Booker, I thought, and I read some of the stuff this morning online, said, I think maybe the best thing, liberty and justice for all. I think everyone kind of thinks that and wants to live it, but we see that places like Pittsburgh have to put laws in to make that work, and we're trying to get something past the Supreme Court. Do you see a day, do you see a time, Megan, where, as you look across the broader landscape, that not only does Pennsylvania do something, but maybe, decision or not, from the Supreme Court, something gets done nationally, legislatively even?
I hope so, and I think we really have to have a paradigm shift here, and instead of parsing out the legal details of this, we need to say, is that person a human? Do they deserve equal protection under the law? Are we talking about human rights? Or are we going to have a legal argument over the definition of one word? And I think the aspirational thing here is to say it's human rights. They cover all of us. And we shouldn't say it is okay to treat some people differently. That's not what our country was founded on. That's not where we should be in 2019.
If I recall correctly, the U.S. House of Representatives has passed the Equality Act, and it's sitting with Mitch McConnell to bring it up for a vote in the U.S. Senate, and that's where we're at the moment. I want to come back to the Supreme Court's decision here, because you have conservative Justice Neil Gorsuch, who seemed to suggest that maybe he could put sexual orientation under the word sex, but he raised this concern about, quote, massive social upheaval. What's he talking about? Bathrooms? I mean, they spent a lot of time talking about bathrooms here. How do you view that? Is there massive social upheaval if you provide employment protection?
I think they said the same thing when same-sex marriage was passed, too, that the sun wasn't going to come up the following day, and we were going to go spiraling down. And guess what? People still are loving. We need more love in this country, and having some more people that want to love and take care of each other doesn't seem to be a real bad thing. And you talk about bathrooms. John, I don't know about you, but nobody that I know likes going into public restrooms. We go in there, we do our business, and we leave the restroom at the end of the day. So I love having this conversation.
We don't look at each other.
We don't even, like, we go into the bathroom, we quickly get out. I don't know anybody that likes going to public bathrooms. So we continue to have this conversation that people are going to be congregating in bathrooms. We haven't seen it yet, and there are many different states that already have protections as it relates to just go to the bathroom and leave the bathroom at the end of the day. That's what it's about. Yeah.
Right. I mean, D.C. actually has an ordinance about same-sex bathrooms, right? That all the bathrooms need to be gender neutral when there's any new construction or development. I don't think anyone in D.C. has like caught on fire for using a gender-neutral bathroom. We all use them all the time.
What's a gender-neutral bathroom?
That just means a single stall. Anybody can go in. It's not the women's room, the men's room.
It's a porta-john. I mean, for all intents and purposes, it's the same thing as a porta-john. Right. We go in there, we do our business, and leave as quickly as possible. I love this conversation about bathrooms. Just baffles me that we continue to have it. People just want to go to the bathroom.
They spent a lot of time talking about this at the Supreme Court.
And it is an issue. You know, in the city, we actively have a case that is about bathrooms and transgender rights and the ability to choose which bathroom you're going into. Again, nobody is going in there for nefarious purposes. We're going in for, you know, human bodily functions, and we're leaving.
I actually had an experience in a different country, in Ireland, where they actually, at one of their national sites, had gender-neutral bathroom where men and women went into the same large room. And you're right, they had separate stalls for everybody, and women would go one in one, men right next to them. You couldn't, I mean, again, the whole idea is to get out of there as fast as you can.
Right. I've never had anyone look under the stall.
You know, we laugh about it, and yet this may be the reason why the Supreme Court denies rights.
Well, I think a lot of it's fear of the unknown. And I think that what we've seen specifically with the gay, lesbian, and bisexual community and now the transgender community is when people tell their story, when the people, you know, it's really hard for all four of us really to talk about the transgender community. Our brains match our body. We look and act like we're, you know, like we were born, I guess you could say. But really, just think about it for a second. It's a very interesting world that we live in. And it is not unfathomable that somebody could be born, that their brain thinks they're one thing and their outward appearance is something different. And the good part is we have medical breakthroughs and science out there that has enabled people to live authentically.
Well, Gary Van Horn, Megan Stanley, thank you so much for being part of this conversation. Of course, with Jerry, this has been very helpful to us, and we appreciate all that you do in the community. Thank you again. We'll be back in a moment when the KDPG Sunday edition continues. Stick with us.